Na �ㄗ agus éis leis an scéal. Sbec, grandson of 𝕴𝖣𝖘 from the 𝕲, came from the plain of Sbec seeking Imbas, and Cuchulainn encountered him on the River Boyne. Cuchulainn captured him, and he explained that he had come looking for the fruit of the nuts of a fair-bearing hazel. There are 9 fair-bearing hazels from where he got Imbas. It used to drop into the wells, so that the stream bears the Imbas into the Boyne. Then Sbec sang to him some of his lore, and a song. I am not a lad, I am not a man, I am not a child in learning. The mysteries of God had made me gifted. I am Abcon, a sage of learning, a poet from Sagas. Sbec is my name, 𝕴𝖣𝖘's grandson from the 𝕲. Then Sbec offered great rewards to Cuchulainn for letting him go free, and Cuchulainn would not grant it. Then he stretched out his hand to his harp. He played to him a wailing strain, so that he was wailing and lamenting. He played to him a laughing strain, so he was laughing, and finally he played him a sleeping strain, so he cast him into slumber. Then Sbec escaped down the Boyne in a bronze boat. Now, there are 3 versions of this story. This is the mid-version from around the 12th to 13th century. There's an earlier version dating from the 11th century, and it does not include the words Imbas, or Forsana for that matter. Now, if we go to the 3rd version, it goes into the cycle of the �ㄗ in which Cuchulainn is on his own, and he's looking for Imbas on his own himself, and it's not Sbec. What is Imbas Forsana? A couple of years back, I wrote a series of articles called Pseudo History and Lore of Master Poets for the website for Order of Celtic Wolves. In this, we considered how Irish pseudo history was developed and shaped by both the Phili and the monastic clerics of medieval Ireland. We discussed how the Phili were able to use a method on how to mentally retain all the names, personalities, and attributes of the native deities, and we also saw how every saga and legend was recited orally by the Phili. Imbas Forsana is a Middle Irish term. Now, Middle Irish is dated from the late medieval Ireland up until the late 19th century. Now, it also means light that illuminates. Now, there is nothing in Sean Gaeilge or Old Irish found recorded so far that it's its equivalent in any Irish text dating from the 11th century backwards, which indicates that this was a new term brought in by medieval Irish and given to the intellectual elites of both modern Phili and monastic clerics. So, who were the Phili, and why was the art of the Phili so important in Irish society? The Phili were wanderers comprised of a master, or Ollamh, acolytes, and apprentices who travelled from Tuatha to Tuatha across the country. Now, when I use the word Tuatha, Tuatha means in people or tribe. They were given great receptions and banquets while reciting their art. A Tuatha chieftain held them with great respect as hosts. To turn the Phili away or accuse them of venting was detrimental to their reputation, as the Phili could tarnish their names to neighbouring Tuatha by reciting verse of ill character attributed to these chieftains. Philidoct was about painting mental imagery using words to their audience, and it was important to keep within the narrative of their sagas, hence why names and places were ingrained into the cognitive capacity of the Phili. In one of the parts of the pseudo-history series, I mentioned an account of a rite of passage between Ollamh, or master, and apprentice, in which the apprentice outshone and passed their test before a panel of peers. The apprentice used the same narrative, but was inspired to paint a bigger picture using the technique he or she had learned to use with subjective thinking. That was the test, and that he passed in this particular tale. Now, what is the relevance of Imbas Forsana today? Fast forward roughly a millennium, we can see how Imbas Forsana has evolved to mean different things to different individuals. To the medieval intellectual elite, it was a means to create and progress their art or profession. To us, it means that light bulb moment that inspires our individual creativity, whether in our professional lives or even our individual creativity itself. It comes in many forms, depending solely on our individual subjective perspectives. Back in the early noughties, I bought a book called The Celtic Book of the Dead, which contained a lot of divination and visualization techniques. It was expensive at the time, very ornate, and had various bits and bobs. And of course, back then I had to have it. Now, however, as I developed a lot further in my path since, the book went missing. and I still have the view of it as 𝕵𝖘 𝕱𝖆, or if we want to go with English, I can't really say it because it would be extremely sensitive here, but it's bull and excrement. Sadly, in some circles, some practitioners in the ways of the ancients try to convince others that hallucinogenics are the way. Now, the Order of Celtic Wolves and 𝕴𝖒𝖇𝖆𝖘 neither promote nor condone the use of recreational drugs as part of your spiritual path. Now, however, I work in the Irish frontline healthcare sector, and I've witnessed in A&E the dangers of substance abuse of both physical and mental health of users, along with devastating effects to those around their loved ones. So how then can we get Imbas Forsana if we don't listen to these self-declared authorities on the subject? It's easy. You do what you enjoy. A few examples of mine are going out my bike and listening to music on my headphones, going out my kayak and listening to the water around me, and traveling to and from various sacred sites and just meditating on my surroundings there. It's amazing how the human mind operates. Your body goes on autopilot and your mind runs on a different dimension as it relaxes. Little flashes of Imbas Forsana will jump at you, even if it's not so strenuous activities that can have the same effect. Activities like fishing in the riverbank, walks in the park and woods, and even sitting on a bench staring at the horizon can do the same. You can also feel inspired by reading ancient texts and learning about ancient customs and lifestyles. But music and dancing are always a good source of it as well. Now, I need to warn you that there are plenty of authorities out there who are there to make a quick buck, and sadly, there's a huge audience of naive people who do get taken in and then further are spread misinformation. Now, I would like to leave you with some optimistic food for thought. It is a memory that remains with me and hopefully will continue to remain with me also. A few years ago, I was walking in woodland, which is down in Killa in East County Cork. Now, it's also Sir Walter Riley's former estate as well. Now, I was there with my family. Now, it's traditionally frequented by families every 𝕆𝖃. It's a tradition. And there's also a small river that flows through it. Now, my partner and myself sat down on the grass by the bank watching my little one play amongst the wildflowers at the time. Now, there was insects were humming at the river. The small one was chasing little butterflies that flitted about the flowers, and the sound of the river filled the air as well as her laughter. The sun shone down, reflecting on ripples in the water surface, and created columns of light in the shadows between the trees. The breeze gently rustled the leaves. A willow hung its weeping limbs over the running water. It was a perfect moment of time. I looked over at the small one, laughing and dancing with little winged beings darting playfully around her. A hedgehog snuffled out long grass with a tiny rider on its back towards the river. Somebody was simply humming at the riverbank. I looked over and saw a woman bent over the bank, combing her hair, singing to herself. To have that moment of Imbas Forsana takes time and will hit us at the moment that is right. Much like the Greek philosopher Archimedes, when he streaked through the street shouting "Eureka" on discovering displacement in his bathtub. It's a matter of being patient. It will happen. Just don't get arrested for running around the place stark naked. Clorabog.